Check. Quick sound check. Can everybody hear us loud and clear? What's going on, Coach Paul?
Hey, Coach Jay. Welcome back. We only have one Friday this week. Actually, kind of looking forward to it.
Yes, we do. Happy Monday. Welcome back, everyone. Welcome to all of our buzzer beaters. Looks like we sound good, look good as well. Welcome, everyone, to At the Buzzer, our market recap. This is your first time here. The goal of this segment is to review what happened in the markets for the day. We may talk about some markets that you have not traded before, but we believe our goal as traders is to identify opportunity, see how we could have taken advantage of those opportunities while managing our risk. If that's our first time meeting, I am Coach Jay. Been a Topstep performance coach since June of 2023. Been trading for the last, I'm going to update my numbers now, 13 years in the futures markets for the past 6. We are in 2025. And that's Coach Paul. Coach Paul, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hey, I'm Coach Paul. I have also been with Topstep for since May of 2023 as a performance coach. I've been involved in the futures industry for 4 decades. I'm here to share my experience and perhaps knowledge and assist you in performing and improve your performance as a futures trader.
We got a couple comedians in the chat here, Alex and Rock and TJ. I mean, the look good is debatable, and Rock and TJ goes,
Uh,
"We said sound good. I wasn't asking about looking good." Um, well,
oh, well, I didn't know it was about the looks.
damn, I had something.
Maybe you could
I was gonna shoot back.
just.
I was gonna shoot back, but it's okay. That was good, guys. That was funny. That was funny. I'm gonna laugh at it. Paul ACH, first time here in 2025. Thank you for joining us. Um, Good to see you here. Good to see all of you here. Thank you for joining. Um, let's get into the markets. Hopefully, everybody had a good trading day today. Let us know in the chat how you did. Were you up on the day, down on the day? Something that you could have learned from the day, how you started off your week. I was trading two different Topstep accounts, down on one, up on another. I got caught up in a little bit of the platform issues yesterday, but not going to complain about it. Just going to raise a ticket with support because that's what we should all do. If you have any platform issues, reach out to support, and they should take care of it for you. Uh, but let's get into the news. I don't think we had much as far as major news comes out today, Coach. We do have some heavier news later in the week. We have PPI coming out tomorrow and CPI on Wednesday. So market waiting for some inflation data. Today was an interesting day in the equities, for sure. And it felt like we were waiting for something. Of course, that inflation data is going to have an effect. Anything you saw on the news front, Coach?
No, but I'm interested in what numbers they're expecting in CPI and PPI. Do we have that anywhere?
Let's see. So PPI expectation is 3.5%. Previous number was 3.0%. And that's the year over year number. And CPI 2.9%. The previous number was 2.7%.
So they're expecting a little more.
Correct.
And the way that the grains and the energies are moving, I would expect more too. It's going. Those have been pretty big numbers and expect some volatility. I'll give the advice we give before every big number. Wait for the number to come out. Don't trade in front of it, especially for day trading. Let those who have to trade jump in front of it, and then
100%.
maybe you can trade the results. You don't have to, but my experience is if you get in front of that number, you're taking a lot of risk versus reward. If you wait till after the number in your time frame, you have a much better risk management probability. So just a bit of advice, and these are pretty volatile numbers.
Yes, they are.
So good luck and good trading.
Shout out to Dan in the chat. Said one of my favorite segments. Happy to tell you, coaches, I took my first ever payout from Topstep and locked in $501 today. Y'all the real ones. Dan, you are the real one. Shout out to you for paying yourself, making this real, putting money in your bank account. That's when it's really real, right? You can see the realized P&L in your Topstep account, but until you request that payout and see it in your bank account, that's what makes it really real. So shout out to you for doing that. Keep building on that moving forward.
That's awesome to hear. We're glad you're here, and keep rolling. Get more payouts. Most important, follow your process. It's brought you that payout. Continue to do it.
100%. All right, let's talk about these markets. I put together the spreadsheet for the year for top percentage movers, but there are 35 different markets we can trade with Topstep accounts, not just the equities. And we are going to focus on the downside first. To the downside, we had platinum down 2.68%, silver down 3.37%, and micro Ethereum futures down 5.03% for our biggest percentage mover to the downside. And then to the upside, we had something missing from this list. Sorry. To the upside, we had wheat futures up 2.73%, crude oil up 2.78%, and soybean meal, our biggest percentage mover to the upside at 3.12%. To talk about our big four, we had the S&Ps up 0.23%, the NASDAQ down 0.2%. We already talked about crude oil up 2.81%, and gold, our biggest percentage mover to the downside in our big four, down 1.27%. I got a NASDAQ chart up here, Coach. I'm not trading the NASDAQ, but we're here, so let's look at it. Let's go out to a daily. We're starting the week. We talked last week, Friday, about these markets looking a little bit heavy. We closed outside of that FOMC candle from December 18th. We got a pretty significant close out there. We were talking in both of these markets about the 200 moving average on the daily. Early this morning, it looked like we were going to sell off. When the New York session opened up, looked like we were going to sell down towards there. Market's still finding some support in this area, around 20,700, where we've seen some prior support, demand, whatever you want to call it, before. And we got a pretty nice bounce from there. But knowing that we have the inflation data coming out tomorrow, this feels like the market is waiting for information day. What do you see in the equities today, Coach?
I agree with you. A short covering. We
Yep.
have the big wick. Lows were made towards the opening, and we had, I can't even call it a melt up. We just had a natural rise. To me, very indicative of short covering in front of a big number. From an institutional point of view, these are pretty good prices to buy stock. On the NASDAQ, it looks like there was a little allocation. So it's in the hole. VWAP is still pretty high. There's still some volatility in this market that needs to be balanced out, but definitely bargain hunters from that chart.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with you. Let's look at last night's open. Go to last night's open here. We are under the 200 moving average on the 30-minute chart. Last night was a pretty decent sell. If anyone caught any of this move, we had not the most urgent sell-off, but once VWAP did leave the range, getting into that London session, London came in and sold it right away. That was probably the best move on the day. The New York session was pretty choppy, kind of overlap. And when I say best move, that's me talking like a trend trader, where we had, pretty much a 200 point move to the downside, where the New York session was a range-bound trader's dream, right? Where we could identify the extremes of the range somewhere near that overnight low, and then up near these highs around 20,008 880, 850, we'll call it. For the first 2 hours of the New York session, we kind of ranged around for a little while. So something for everybody today. Two-sided market depending on when you were trading, right? You could have shorted during the London session, traded the range during the New York session, and then caught a decent long going into the rest of the day. Did you trade the equities at all today, Coach?
I traded the S&P. I got short a micro S&P
Okay.
last night or early last night. Covered it in the New York pre-opening.
Okay.
Tried to buy it, got stopped out, and I was done.
Nice.
I found it interesting that the biggest volume, well, of course, usually was the opening,
Hmm.
and that was buying.
Yep.
And look at that. Now, if we put VWAP in there and anchor it to that, we had proof. Was it easy?
Not
Look at
at
how many
all.
times it was not. So choppy. Um, but as the thesis was, we had some bargain hunting, shortcut. To me, this is a short covering overall.
Yeah.
Um, and it being considered, it was what, 50 lower, 655 lower. I think 21 was my support, first level of support. I found buying there, but either side, I mean, they didn't make it comfortable. Maybe I can't say easy. They didn't make it comfortable for buyers or sellers till late in the day, where buyers just took control, more short covering. This all can be expected in front of PPI.
Yeah, I did not trade the equities too much today. This move right here, I was already locked out by this point, but VWAP being where it was, this is just a beautiful move here, right? And not to say that this is going to, we know that this is going to, trend up a full percent from there. But coming back, checking this 3-minute opening range, being VWAP being above the range, price being below, this is a great buying opportunity. It gave us a couple of opportunities to do it. The Nasdaq and the S&P looked a lot different today. Hoag had sent me a message and was asking about buying the Nasdaq, and the way I looked at it, the S&P looked like a much better buy uh, because of kind of where this VWAP was, right? Where it wasn't as convincing. The S&Ps left the range a little bit earlier and more convincing. You can see in the Nasdaq, it almost took half of the day to even leave that range. And by the time we did it, is this a great area to buy? Um, a lot more indecision or a lot more balance, I would say, in the Nasdaq than in the S&Ps. Part of the reason I enjoy trading it a little bit more. But where we closed, right near that 21,000 level, major psych number, going into inflation data tomorrow. I think that's kind of a decision making area. We're back above the open for the year, I believe.
Yeah, one of the things is we should put an anchored VWAP to the first day of the year. Let's see
Let's do
where
that.
we're at.
Let's do that. We are under it. I know that.
Yeah,
So it's all the way
kind
up
of.
here.
It's kind of reminding me of the start of 2024.
Yep. Yes, it does.
I'm going
Yes,
to
it does.
answer a quick question on Dante Sweeney asked, Coach, so what exactly do you mean by short covering? All right, the market has been in the short term in a downtrend. As we can see from from the beginning of the year, this morning we were making new lows for the year. So there was selling shorts in the market. All right. This morning we made that low in London. We had a double bottom. We had the first half an hour. If we look at the first half an hour and see how VWAP started today, it was right in the middle of the range. And then we started moving higher with VWAP. The fact that we were we were near lows of the year, and at those lows when buying came in, as we can see from the angle of VWAP, it's creeping up. Those are buyers, most likely buyers that are evening up before the big number tomorrow. I hope that explains it.
Awesome. Thank you for that, Coach. And then I see some chat in the chat about some of the news about the CME becoming a broker and FCM. I don't think that changes anything for us here, at least. Coach, you're gonna have way more experience in that field than I do, but I don't know that it's something that we have to worry about. I see, and this will be the only comment I make on this. Um, Social media is interesting. Groupthink is interesting. But you see on Twitter, a lot of the big names in trading on Twitter saying, "Oh, changes are coming to the prop space. Um, Big changes are coming for traders." I usually go. My approach is usually let me see it first, and then I'll respond from there, because then I can create scenarios in my head that may not ever come to reality. So when I see things like that, people posting, "Oh, there's these big changes coming." It's like, okay, let me see what the changes are, and then I can decide whether or not they're big or not, and then move from there. Um, Especially when you see posts like that and there's no news. The post is just, "Hey, there are big changes coming. Tell me first, and then I can decide." Um, I will say you haven't seen that, at least I haven't, from anyone at Topstep. Um, and there are some things that Topstep is working on. I'm not going to share those. You'll know when they are announced. Um, but I think it's great. Again, I will continue to say this. I think most of us should be working to try to get to live accounts with Topstep, because that's where the focus is for the company. You've heard it. I'm not saying anything you haven't heard before. MP has said it, right? The focus should be on live traders for 2025. Anything else, I'm not aware of any changes, but I wouldn't even look into it until it's officially announced.
Thank you.
Uh, no problem. Anything else on the equities, Coach?
Um, Nothing that. What about the Dow? Wasn't it higher when everything else was lower?
Well, I mean, look at that. This is the 3-minute opening range down here.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
we've seen this, right? We've seen this where the S&P, the Nasdaq may be a little bit indecisive about where it's going, and we'll see the Dow or the Russell make a pretty nice move. The Dow was up almost 1% today, while the Nasdaq was down, 0.15%. Really nice move here. Really nice move here. It's a market that can move. We are still under, and maybe this is the move that we see coming up in the Nasdaq, where we were trading below that 200 moving average on the 30-minute as well. The 20 got above the 50, and we're starting to see that short covering. That's exactly what this looks like, right, Coach? This was a market that towards the end of 2024, we saw, I think, what was it, 10 or 11 down days in a row under very heavy sell pressure. And at some point, you're going to see a bounce. And that's kind of what this looks like now. Am I going to be investing in the Dow for long term? It's still in a downtrend, but this was a pretty nice move today.
Go back and squeeze that so we can see that when we talk about short covering. Now where's the first day of the year?
First day of the year is going to be right. Oops. Right here.
All right. Really short. Another reason for short covering. It's quick and fast. Um, just another example. Is it shorts I really don't. I can't say definitively yes or no, but it sure has the DNA of it. So, but Dow with a little more urgency than the other. Um, but going back to trade in the present, there was an article today I saw. Uh, I have to give MSNBC some credit. They
Okay.
they posted it somewhere. Was it MS? One of those, the financial one that I used to watch was Squawk Box. And anyway, they had a study. They worked with a, s- a set of traders, investors, and they gave them the the settlement for the next day.
Okay.
6 out of 10 went broke trading it,
Well, say that
and
again.
they had the settlement for the day
For the
before it
next
came out,
day.
and they
Okay.
the next day was a one out of 6 went broke.
That's crazy.
I'll
When
get it. I'll bring
you
it
knew
tomorrow.
exactly where the market was going to go.
Yes, you had the settlement for the day, and they did it was a study. I don't know. I'll get more information. How much? But just going back to how hard trading is.
Yeah.
It's there's I'll get more of that because that's exactly what trading is. You could. I've said it when I was younger. It was before it was. I said if I only had the Wall Street Journal for 1 year ahead, I'd be a billionaire
You would think.
because I could just buy the right stocks, right, and I
You would
wouldn't be
think.
wrong. But unless you have, it's where it's settled. It isn't where what happened before it settled there. You could have got short today or long last night and over leveraged and been blown out this morning.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
once again, on the hierarchy of importance, number one is risk management. Risk not thy whole wad was a poster that was in just about every trading house in Chicago. The Merc made this poster and it was written in stone, right? It was a commandment. So it's that hard. It's that important. I'll get some more information on it, but bringing in, like you were bringing whatever the news or the rumor was, that may happen,
Right.
and I can react to it when it happens and make decisions in the present. Things that are going to happen in the future, I might be dead when they happen,
That's a good point.
right? Me more than you, coach. But the bottom line is you have no control. All you have control in the present, making decisions the best you can with a process. If you're doing that, I don't know of anyone who lives in the future. As a
Mm,
trader, it's really dangerous to get it mindset. It's got to go. I've done that one.
They did make that
Let
movie
me
with
get
those guys in that car.
they did it. Yes. Notice they didn't trade.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
But just going back to as a trader, it's imperative that you remain in the present. Your decisions are based on your present situation, how much money you have, how much risk you're taking, and where you are in your process. So
100%.
getting caught up in things that might happen is a detriment to good decision making.
I agree with you, Coach. Want to answer something from Kevin here. Was saying, VWAP pretty much flat on the day. Does the market usually come back and visit that opening range? I would say to a high probability it will come back and visit these opening prices. Um, and Kevin, you're right. Right, this VWAP definitely flattened out. It left the range pretty early, but then flattened out, and that's why we see this range. In this case. Do we know that it's going to, bounce perfectly at around 50% of that opening range? We don't. But I think this is a general area to start looking for a potential reversal, right? Where we've gotten extended from this VWAP, where it showed in this case, we got about 50 ticks above it. and about the same distance below it as well. If it's going to stay range bound, that's a good measure to kind of use to see, is this a potential area for a balanced coach? I don't think we've ever talked about that, but when VWAP is flat, using the ATR as a measure for the fade trade.
Yeah, I was just kind of ruminating that while you were talking,
Yeah.
is because it never left to me. It never left. Well, on the half hour, it never
Oh, a
left
half
the
hour didn't
range.
leave. Uh,
Right there, when I saw that at the first time, and I'm like, it's in the middle. I was done trading that.
yep.
I'm no good. And for those of you who are good, you should lick your chops and get to work. And so using what it's like, I know I'm not good at it. I just I'll find another place that fits my style. You know. So,
Agreed.
but great question. You're that far away, I would say most likely it's a range day. So, how far away were we from VWAP? How many ATRs on both sides is a great study.
Yeah,
Um,
it's interesting.
it's almost like a Bollinger Band.
Right. I mean, I guess that's what the VWAP bands are as well, right? The volatility, the standard deviation bands. I think that's kind of what they're based on.
Well, with volume, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
that's the important thing. That's why I think it's the best thing since sliced bread because it's real. And volume verifies that. Is it a the answer to all the uncertainty? No, nothing is. If there was certainty, we wouldn't be trading, or there wouldn't be enough size because only fools would take the other side. If I have certainty, who's going to take the other side? So, but it's a great tool to measure uh, the price and volume to get an idea of the trend. Like here, when it flattened out on the half an hour, it did leave it. Um, gave you gave you some um the market bias here, but it didn't leave early. It took about a half an hour. Um, so can we assume it was bought?
Yep.
Yeah. So I think that would be a great study on those. How far away, especially when it goes flat.
Agreed. Uh, all right. Let's move on from the equities. Let's move on to crude oil because crude oil is starting to be interesting, and we're coming up to a number. Do we name the number? We haven't had to speak about this number in a very long time. Um, and if you guys have been joining us, I don't think maybe since we started at the buzzer on YouTube, I think we maybe to talk about it once. It was a big thing we spoke about a lot when we were doing this in Discord, but crude has been in a range for the past 4 months. We're almost there, Coach. The number that shall not be named. Uh,
Oh, is that 80?
$80 in crude. We are almost there. If you look back at any kind of charts over the course of last year, of course, they're going to be adjusted for rollover and things like that. But anytime crude oil got up towards this $80 level, $80 a barrel last year, was a pretty strong rejection off of that level. And we're almost there, right? Crude broke out of this, and I'm not calling that going to be the high. I'm not silly enough to do that, especially after this consolidation that we came out of, right? We were in this range for 3 months. You have to think that there was some inventory being built here. Maybe they're only looking for $80, but they could be looking for more, right? Right now, this is not a market that I want to short for a very long time, maybe for a quick pullback trade if it presents the opportunity. But higher time frame, the trend is leaning towards that upside, and presenting some really nice opportunities. Second on the top percentage mover list today. Um, a lot of that move happened on the open. where we kind of just shot up and we ranged for the rest of the day. So maybe not the easiest trade today, because once we had this move here, which was about 2%, we were kind of in a range until the end of the day. So not the easiest trade. I know I looked at crude on the open last night, and again, here's that opening 3-minute candle. Maybe you could have bought it right off of that, but I'm probably not taking that trade too many times. But if we look at it again, the market coming back to significant price action, a significant range, right? Ton of volume came in on the open. VWAP left that range, and we came back and checked it a couple times. So range bound
Well,
market for the. Go ahead, coach.
let's look back at the daily and see that trend line.
Oh yeah,
We get
got to draw it again. Where was it from here?
doesn't it save it?
I delete the drawings every once in a while.
Uh,
I think we did it from this high, right? From the high of the
Yeah.
year in 2024. Yep, there we go.
Found it. Well, the trend has been broken. Bottom line, right? It's over the 200. We saw that. This is looking at it from here is a pretty bullish chart.
Yep.
Wow, it's that far from the 200 already.
It happened quick.
I find this very interesting at the end of one administration and the beginning of another.
Hmm.
I'll put my tinfoil hat on, but I'm not sharing opinions. Opinions and something else are very,
Everyone
I
has
can't
one.
make money on my opinion. Everyone has one, and they usually stink. But this has been a quick move. I didn't hear everybody saying a violent move in crude around Thanksgiving.
No.
So this is with a non-newsworthy rally. So something happened internally. Do I know? All I know is I have not been shorted. I've got to participate in some buys. I
Yes.
didn't hold them well enough. I need to get better. But I wasn't getting short.
Agreed. Yeah, I do not want to sell this. Maybe we'll see what happens at 80. But even then, I'm not going to be the first person to sell it. Because if it wants to run to 85, 90, 100, my account is not going to stop that. And again, this consolidation that we came out of was on a higher time frame, such a big consolidation that we've seen it before, right? Where the last time we kind of got a consolidation around this area, and then we started to break out. We did top out around 80, but that was 4 months, right? So we consolidated in December and broke out, but it was a 4-month breakout until we kind of turned to the downside. So not a market that I want to short for a very long time, but presenting some opportunities to trade. And it took the spot on our top percentage mover list from Nat Gas today. Nat Gas was down 1.7%. If you talk about the percent that the market moved, though, I don't know if anyone was watching Nat Gas last night, but we opened with a Sunday gap. We were up 9%, and this was one of those Sundays where we filled that entire gap.
You know how much I love natural gas, and
Yeah.
I've stopped trading it.
Yeah,
It's just
too volatile.
It's too volatile for me. I'm not that good of a trader. For those of you who are good at it, this was offered a great sell.
Yeah.
If using VWAP off opening, but
yeah.
how much? What's the risk? I mean, that was the trade, right?
Yeah, but like you said, where do you risk? 2 ATRs?
Okay, 2 ATRs. This isn't a big. Let's do that. The ATRs. This is the cost of entry.
Would be up here. And to Dante Sweeney, don't mean to be a problem, but one day can you guys go over more how you use the ATR? Just very interested because I hear you guys talking about it a lot. We're doing that right now, right? So, coach, if you were to get into this, if you were to take this trade, now I think you said you stopped trading nat gas right now just because of the volatility kind of increasing a little bit. But if you were to take this, let's say this was our signal here, right? So I got short around here. Your stop would be two, right? Two ATRs.
Two
So
ATRs.
right now on the 30-minute chart, if I take the trade around here, we can see the ATR value right over my shoulder right here, 0.046. So I'm just going to multiply that value by 2. And based on the volatility of the market, I'm going to do public math here, and that's 92, 46 times 2, right? My stop would have to go here based on the volatility that the market is showing now. That's a 2% stop on this market. And I think, coach, that might be the reason you're saying you're
I
moving away
wasn't
from.
willing to take.
Right.
Yeah, but that's over $1,000 risk on a one lot.
Right.
Now, if I was one of those people that don't have to sleep, maybe I would have taken that. Um, but I didn't want to put a stop in for that and wake up without. So, you know, could have done a mini. There would have been a quarter of that, but still, that's in the gap. But it, I'll tell you, it's a great trade to the sell side. I didn't like it. I didn't want to take the risk.
Yeah.
For those of you who wanted to take the risk, I mean, looking at that, that was rejected immediately.
Yes, it was.
On the highs of the move too.
Yeah.
Um,
There was some news out. I'm gonna be honest, I can't even remember what it was, but anytime since we had that 25% up day, anytime there is a move like this on the open, I do just quick Google nat gas news to see what happens. Because I wanted to fade that day, the day that we had that 25% up move, I wanted to fade the move back into the gap. And I'm happy I didn't because there was an actual fundamental reason, right? And I don't look at fundamentals in my trades, but when there's a fundamental reason for a move that big, again, I'm probably just gonna get stopped out on the trade. So I looked, don't remember what it was, but a really nice trade. Shout out to Scott Vaughn who said shorted it with a micro. It's a great trade.
nice job.
It's a great trade. Again,
Hope you did well with it. But there's a classic. That's a classic. It was sold on the opening. VWAP representing larger traders. The shark sold it.
yep,
Don't, and it never really was owned. I mean, it closed near the lows of the day.
yeah. Really interesting stuff here. Any other markets we want to go over? We didn't go over gold. Let's go over gold. Here's gold. Let's go out to a daily chart on gold really quick. We are still in this range. November 25th. Anybody remember what November 25th was? Was there any significant news or anything like that on the 25th? I know the last FOMC we got was on the 18th. That's this candle right here. But if anyone in the chat knows the significance of November 25th, if anything at all, whatever it is, we had a ton of selling in gold, and we have not left that range really for much time at
Was that
all.
Thanksgiving?
Uh, someone said it was Coach Paul's birthday.
The 18th.
the
Thank you for remembering, though.
I don't remember. Yeah, somebody said Thanksgiving. Maybe that's what it was. Whatever it was, we got a pretty significant sell off that day in gold. Again, we haven't really left that range with the exception of this FOMC day. So I'm looking at gold as a pretty big range, but a range bound market right now. If we're looking at a daily, if we look at a 30-minute, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, it looked like it was going to choose a direction. Looked like it was going to rally up. Um, I'm thinking, does crude oil do exactly the same move at $80, where it looked really strong and then turned around? But what are you seeing in this gold chart, Coach?
I just see failed buying. It's just,
Yeah.
it's not holding its rallies like it did before. I
Mm.
think it's also paying attention to the bond market. The bond market is just creeping. Rates are creeping higher. when they shouldn't be. It's another discussion, but uh, if you're only holding a large amount of gold, it's not a small number. I mean, it adds up. Um, so well, it seems to me that larger longs are getting out on rallies. I mean, we've seen this. It just doesn't hold its rally very well.
Yeah.
It's going down faster than it's going up. It's going back to its old self. When time I stopped trading it.
Yeah.
Um, but look here for a day trade, starting last night. Once again, what happened to VWAP on the opening?
It was pretty flat. Looked like it wanted to leave to the upside. Price went, and VWAP kind of stayed in the range. Do you fade this move? You could for a quick scalp trade. If you're looking for trend, though, I don't know that that's the easiest trade to hold for this entire move here, because you got a decent short somewhere above this range, but then you got to hold through this indecision, right? And this is 8 hours. Do you just set your stop and leave it, and you say, hey, yes, this is a short? The one thing about this, right? Because I've gotten this question: when you see this, why don't you just short it up here, and then take the rest of the trend? Uh, is there anything decisive in this chart here? And maybe we could zoom out and say, this low down here is a decent profit target for a short, which I think is very reasonable to say. This was a reaction to news, and we didn't revisit that candle low from the time the news was printed. But is there anything definitive to say that this short is going to happen to a high probability? For me, I would say no at this point, Coach. What about you?
Well, right there, no, it's being bought. It's shorter term.
Right,
But even we talk, it didn't leave the VWAP didn't leave the first half hour's range.
right.
So that was just price.
Yep,
Volume did not follow. But even if you bought it, your stop, limiting your stop, you have to, it's either new lows, two ATRs, or close below VWAP.
yep.
Now, that one candle, that's how
Yeah,
bad. Let's go think of another way. If I'm long that and I see that candle happens, I'm done for the day.
yeah.
Um, that candle moved VWAP down. It was the largest range, and that was probably Japan Open or Asian Open. Volume, that was the biggest volume of the night.
Yep.
Of course, they'd have to have big volume to move VWAP. VWAP
This
doesn't move on small volume.
definitely not. And yeah, this was the Asian session open here, which I think if we look at a 3 minute range, set the high for the day. At that point, yep, yeah, we never
Okay.
got above that Asian. So Asia came in, sold it. London kept selling it.
So let me ask our audience, is what trend do you consider that? I mean, it's obvious, but what is setting the trend? Not just price, but the volume is certifying that. So you can go ahead and make money buying it, but when you're buying it, you're buying someone else's burden, an imbalance, and you got to be really good. I'm not saying you can't. You can buy levels there, but you can't. You can't spend much time, and you sure as hell can't be greedy.
Right.
That's going back to a floor trade. Why a lot of you could get away with that when you had an edge when volume you were near volume, but the farther away you get away from VWAP or volume, the more you're getting away from the action. Um, if you're a good trader and you're buying those dips to sell it at VWAP, you're a good short-term trader. Good
Agreed.
on you. But
Uh,
would you be made more money selling VWAP and then buying it?
got a question here from Zyzoft. Do you trail at 2 ATRs? If you're gonna, let's say you go with a 2 ATR stop, Coach, you're looking for a 2-to-1 trade, so that would be, you're looking for 4 ATRs to make that 2-to-1. once the market goes in your favor, that 2 ATRs, are you trailing your stop or are you just letting it rock?
Two things. It's a free trade. If it goes 2 ATRs, usually I'm out.
There you go.
But 2 to 1. I'm sorry. If it's 2 to 1, it goes.
2 to 1.
But you can move. You can move that stop back to unchanged. So where you have a free trade,
Yep.
quote unquote. I hate to use that word, but free. You could pay for your risk. You could have a riskless, quote unquote, riskless trade. You can do that. That's actually not a bad strategy. But on a 2 to 1 trade on a day trade, I'm finding out especially with this strategy, take the money
Find something else to do for the day.
because it's if you're trading micros, maybe you do 2 micros. So there's money ways to do it. The idea, what I'm saying, is looking for the order flow in this type of strategy. I want to, especially in day trading, you want to get with the order flow of the day.
Yep. Yep. For me, the way I'm going to trail, as the market gives me favorable price action, I'm going to look for some type of structure to trail behind, right? So if I'm short, looking for some volume that held, right, on a bounce and trying to go above that high. Not trying to catch the whole move, and a lot of times I'll trail to a spot that's a little bit too tight and I'll get tagged out. I think it's all a preference thing, right? How do you decide to manage a trade? What is your response to a trade that gets to your profit target and you're in it or not in it, right? Two completely different responses. Some people have very negative responses. Some people to markets getting to their profit targets and not seeing part of the move. So I will trail that way.
Those people, do they wear your clothes, eat your food,
Yeah,
wear your
yeah,
drive your car?
yeah. I got an evil twin somewhere out there.
We all do.
Billy says, "Are riskless trades negating the reason you got in the trade in the first place?" Billy, that's a great question. I don't normally, personally, I don't like break even on a full position. Um, but like Coach just said, if the market is presenting some favorable price action, and let's say I'm risking 2 ATRs and I'm looking for a 2 to 1, and right now the market is trading at uh, a 1 to 1,
One to
right? So let's say I make a 1 to 1. I'm taking something off the table, right? And that's usually why I like to trade with more than uh, one position on, because then you get to manage your trades. I'll just give you an example real quick. I was just telling Coach in the green room before we got on here. I took a long, a stock trade, right? We're here trading futures, but I'll give you an example. I took a long in CVS at $45. My target is $68. When the market gets to $53, I'm removing the risk on the trade. And if it comes back and stops me out at my entry, then fine. Um, but what I'll also do is sell some of the position if we start to drop below that $53. Because I'm gonna take some profit on the trade, right? I'm not gonna let a full position get back to zero because then I feel like I just wasted my time. So I'm gonna take something off the table, and you can always add the position back on if you get a pullback or whatever it is. But I think having a general target for where you think the market is gonna go, and then kind of trading around your position. For me, I found the best way. I don't normally ever hold a full position to a profit target unless I'm looking for 10 points on the Nasdaq or something like that. Um,
Yeah, another way to think of that is you put on 2 ATRs worth of risk. Now it goes to a place where you can scratch, quote unquote.
yeah,
That's the quote unquote riskless trade. Um, and here's the other thing. The bottom line is you're comfortable now holding it
yep,
because you've released the fear of losing.
correct.
Um, Sometimes it can cut off really good trades.
That's a fact.
Sometimes, but that's baked in the pie. If there's certain times it makes sense in a volatile market. Yeah, If it's set that it shouldn't come back and that's part of the process, it shouldn't come back at this price, yes.
Yep.
So, but
Man, that's
there
such a good
is
point.
there's there's good reasons to take it. Um, think about it. It's like, okay, I'm in now. I don't the comfort zone in your mindset is so much easier. It's like being long a stock with options. You can survive spikes and
Right.
without worrying about losing your shirt. So there's something to be said for it. I'll do it, especially in day trading. I
Oh yeah.
don't. It, one of the things going back is, and I'm more of a swing trader. Day trading, your time frames are so squeezed that when you can get profit, that's what you hear: see profit, take profit.
Yep.
In the day time frame, it's an adjustment for me that I'm adjusting to. I'm getting better at it. Um, because when you're a swing trader, you frame out your risk, you're willing to take it, you don't over manage it.
Yep. Yeah. I
You
mean, because I think when I think swing trading mindset, I don't think time. Right. This could take. I'm expecting price to get to this level. Now, this could take a month or it could take 6 months. I'm going to assess how good of a job it's doing at getting there and might reassess over time. Um, you don't have that much time with day trading, right? You have to be done by the end of the day. So when you're seeing some profits, and we spoke to Coach, we spoke to I don't know how many traders when we were doing one-on-one coaching with Topstep when we first joined, but a lot of the traders that we have, and I'm wondering how many we have in our audience. A lot of people say, I come from a buy and hold background or long-term investing and things like that. I wonder how many people are trying to make that adjustment around day trading as well. And you might get in a good position, but like we talked about early on when we started, we don't get to, especially on a really short time frame, we don't get to decide how a market gets to a specific price. Right now, I said I just took that long position in CVS. I might be in that position for 3 months. If it moves like it did today, I might be in it for 3 more days and I get out, right? But I don't get to decide that. If it's going to pull back, I'm already, like you said, baked in that longer time frame mindset. Um, but you can't. It's dangerous to take an investing mindset or a buy and hold mindset into day trading. Uh, Again, because we don't get to decide how the markets get there. Uh,
in other words, another name for buy and hold is an investor. It's buy and die. I'm in. I don't worry about it.
right.
That's there's, but you know, and this conversation started with can you go? Should you take a quote unquote riskless trade? I think in a day trading time frame, it makes a lot more sense. In a swing trade or a buy and die, um, it makes a lot less sense.
Yep. Yeah. Good conversation here. Couple questions that we have here, and Ant FX. I see your comments about the journal. I think that's a pretty cool idea. If you guys didn't see what Ant was talking about there, uh, have you ever tried using ChatGPT to read your trading journal and find comparisons between the days, and give you the comparisons on what was different between your winners and losers? That's a good point. I haven't done that because I don't uh, document my journals that way anymore. But ChatGPT definitely knows my trading plan. Um, I think I sat with ChatGPT for like 2 hours one day and broke down everything that I'm looking for trades into eight different trade types. But that's a really good strategy to use, right? If you document your journals, um, I think even if you record them, you can have it like summarize the transcript of your recording if you're talking through your trades and things like that. There's a lot of things you could do with technology. Speaking of which, we have Coach Robert coming on Thursday. I'm going to ask him about some of that stuff. He uses ChatGPT a lot. He actually built a custom GPT for Topstep. So we'll talk to him about that on Thursday. But really interesting stuff there. Um, and then another question, and then we'll get to one more market if you have one, Coach, and then we'll go from there. I know you do definitely have one because we have not talked about the ags at all. So I'm going to throw that to you. Rock and TJ, if I'm trading what do you think about making that 10 micros so I can possibly scale out versus all in, all out? Or do you just take the profit target that I was looking for? I think, from a commission perspective, obviously doing one mini is going to be cheaper, especially if you're talking about trading in your personal account. If you're trading with Topstep, then you don't have to worry about that as much. But I think the peace of mind of not having to make an in and out decision on a trade is worth trading the micros, right? Where how many times have you been in a trade where you're just like, I would take some profit here, but if I get out, then I'm out of the whole position and I have to find another spot to get in. That's where you could shave, 2 or 3 micros off, secure some profits, and then allow the trade the room to still work. What would you say to that, Coach?
I love what you just said. Is First of all, using micros helps you. Most of your accounts in Nasdaq. What's the Nasdaq is an $8,000 daily range. Half hour is in the 1,500. It helps you size your account, the risk for your account. Um, so using multiples is a 5, but you hit one of the biggest points there is get something. We just talked about riskless trade. Let's say if multiples on, you get out of one, put a stop in where you're scratched today. Does that help you hold on? If you take 2 to 1 on them both, you can guarantee a profit. There's different ways. So I like the idea of you have multiple
Yep.
contracts on them, so you can manage your risk a little better. But do it based on the volatility, average true range that you can afford to risk in your account.
Great stuff there. Coach, anything on your scouting report going into the rest of the week?
Well, the one that's been paying me is the grains. So
Let's talk about it.
let's look at the corn, starting with the daily. Let's anchor a VWAP to where we got over the 200.
Which one you want to use? This one?
Yeah. That's all I got to say. Anything you want to add to that, Coach?
No. I think I'm leaning bullish in the grains as well. Yeah, I see.
Okay, I do have something else to
Go,
say.
go ahead. Go ahead.
All right. Well, what happened every time it's gone down to that red line VWAP from when it was 1 over the 200? It's been support. It's buying underneath, like short covering called allocation, which would be new traders, and it's being verified by the VWAP. I don't need. Well, I guess I do need it, but to me, there's nothing better to give me that information. And I'm not just bragging. I like the trade, but I didn't see this, anchored VWAP. And what's that yellow line?
That is the 20 moving average, which is
And so we had a great question last week or during this holiday period. Someone asked about that 20 bar moving average with VWAP. And we see it in the short term, in the 3 minute, the half hour, and now we're seeing it in the daily.
yeah, this looks like a pretty bullish chart. We talked about this also on Friday, the WASD report that came out, the high of that candle, or at least looking at the range of that candle for it to potentially hold. On the open today, of course, we came back, checked it. Buyer said, "Yep, we're still good. We're still here supporting the market, and we're buying from there." So, you can anchor a view up to WASD, whatever it is. This market is being bought right now. Is it new buyers coming in? Is it short covering from markets that have been under heavy sell pressure for a pretty long time here? Whatever it is, there are buyers stepping in. So nice trade there, Coach. And I think good to have on the scouting report. We're seeing some pretty big moves in the grains over the last couple of days.
Yeah, let's look at soybeans real quickly on the daily. When we saw that soy meal was one of the biggest um, upside percentage gainers today.
Yep.
Look at soybeans. We don't have the 200, but above the 50 and above the 20, they're crossing. Big volume. Trend line is broken. Harvest is in. When we talk about harvest lows, in the grains, it's either you have it or you don't. In commodities,
Yep.
you have to. At one point, someone has to deliver. Um, the harvest is in. We made harvest lows in October, November, which is traditional seasonal. Um, we set that low. Even if we just go over, yeah, here we go. And why it's important, it's different in commodities. That's seasonality. The uncertainty now is the 2025 crop that isn't even going in the ground yet. We have Brazil. If you have any, and this will happen, if Brazil is starting their crop, it's spring. If they have any trouble there, this market will go erupt. Right
Interesting.
now, I consider it short covering. Long-term trend is still down, but bouncing off harvest lows and last couple days picking up after WASD above the 20-day moving average, above the 50, gaining momentum. Um, these commodity markets have this thing where when they go one direction, they can go.
For a long time.
All I have to say is cocoa.
Right. Yeah.
You're,
Was it
you're
eight
not.
8 months of one directional movement in that market?
Yeah, you can't print cocoa. It's
And no chocolate inflation.
the
Got one more question here. We already at time. We're 3 minutes over, but JC has a question. Coach, any advice to stop myself from moving my DLL? Look in the mirror and tell yourself that every time you do that, you're taking yourself further away from your goal, whatever your
also
goal is.
ask yourself why you can't take a loss. And I'm not being an asshole. I had to do that myself.
Oh yeah, me too.
Mine was I had to be right. From coming from an economist background, my my research told me this has got to go up or down, and the market is wrong. Whatever. I wouldn't take losses. You remember, on the hierarchy of trading, risk management is number one. Period. So if that helps, look in and like Coach said, look in the mirror and change your attitude to going being wrong to I can only lose this much. I'm happy because you have to take risk
Yep.
to put on a trade, and there's a cost to that. Limit the cost. That's why the best loser wins. I would suggest you go to that book right now and read it and understand losing money in trading, losing well is a principle. Losing poorly it will destroy you. I can attest to that. I have done it. So change your mindset to my DLL helps me stay in the game. And
Yep.
you've heard me say it before. Mine is tight. People look at me like, "What?" But I've I've blown out accounts. I'm not. It's never going to happen again because I'm going to stay at 12 to 15%. Me, it's 12. Hope
Yep.
that helps.
Definitely does. Andrew said most of the time it gets moved because you hope your over leveraged position turns around and goes your way. Uh, Key thing he just put in there, you hope your over leveraged position, right? Ask yourself, are you over leveraged? I was watching a football game last night. I don't remember what game it was, but I know the GOAT, Tom Brady, was announcing the game. And it was late in the fourth quarter. Team was down, and whoever his co anchor was just like, they hope they get the ball back. And Brady goes, yeah, but hope is not a strategy.
Did he say that?
He really did. I was just like, this guy's the best. Hope
Maybe
is
he's
not a
listening to us.
yeah, hope is not a strategy. If you're in a trade and you're hoping something happens, um, it's not a strategy, right? Maybe get out of the trade and find one. I got nothing else. I think we'll end it with that. We have classes all the time. Coach Hoop is doing a class, I'm pretty sure, in 9 minutes in Discord. And then we have Coach Ray and Coach Vince, 6 p.m. and 7 p.m. Central Time. And of course, Dakota with slow markets at 7:30 Central, and Deanna with the London Open at 3:30 a.m. Central Time. Coach, thank you
Nice
as always.
lineup.
Yeah, it
Tune
is.
in. Yeah.
Hit that like button if you haven't done so already on your way out. We appreciate you all being here, hanging out with us. Andrew, thank you as always for sending over the questions. I got nothing else, Coach. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
All right. Goodbye.